Warning, this podcast episode contains swearing, drinking, discussions of railway-related accidents, suicide, and a whole lot of general death. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome to Demons and Bellinis, the podcast where we whip up a drink and talk about some spooky shit. I'm your local final girl, Molly.
And I'm rolling over in my grave to get comfy, Ashley.
Today we will be discussing the horrifying construction of the Hoosac Tunnel, a 4.75-mile train tunnel that runs through the Hoosac Range, located in western Massachusetts. So, grab a beverage of your choosing.
I love
get
trains.
Cozy. I like trains. And check your closet for oncoming flights that may seem closer than they appear. And remember, stay peachy. So yeah, excuse if I kind of sound a little bit sick. I don't know if you guys noticed, but last episode when I did the warning intro, I was very sick and I'm still kind of getting over that. Vaccinate your kids.
You had the flu.
I had the flu. Yeah.
You didn't have measles.
Vaccinate your kids. Still, I mean, flu shots are important.
Yeah.
And also it's just never a bad time to remind people to vaccinate their kids.
Well, yeah, the thing though is with the flu is that you have to make sure it doesn't turn into influenza, and that kills people.
Yeah, I did get influenza.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not 1918.
Yeah, I know. Only 1918 kids will remember. Anyways. We also have some really great news. We were going to buy champagne, but Ashley forgot. But that's okay. Supernatural's getting canceled. So, yay for that.
The evil's defeated, finally,
The evil is defeated. So, yeah. Happy episode 13. That's fun. I'm covering an episode that Lore did for their second episode, if you guys know of that.
Does this have bats in it?
Does not have bats in it.
Oh, wait. What am I thinking of?
So, like I mentioned, the Hoosac Tunnel is a railroad tunnel that is still in operation today and is located in western Massachusetts. Also, that's a really hard state name to pronounce.
Can you spell it? Don't look at it.
No, I can't spell it if I'm not looking at it.
Just...
Massachusetts?
Massive two shits?
Massive two shits.
The original joke.
Yeah.
Sorry for anyone.
God, we're so Canadian. Sorry. But, yeah. Please change your state name because I'm having difficulty pronouncing it. It's near the Berkshire Hills. And like I mentioned, it runs for 4.75 miles, which is 7.64 kilometers, through a mountain range. At its completion, it was the longest running railway in North America and the second longest in the world, which was only rivaled by this rail tunnel called Bellinis in the French Alps.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that one was 7 miles. So, so just to give a general idea of how long it is. Generally, these trains are going at 25 miles per hour. Because they have to go pretty slow through the tunnel.
Yeah.
And it takes more or less 19 minutes to get through it from the east portal to the west portal. Yeah, and you can find videos of people going through the tunnel on passenger trains.
That's cool.
Yeah. So the construction began in 1851 and was completed in 1875, so about 24 years, and was estimated to cost $2 million when it was first designed, but finished with $21 million. And it was also nicknamed the Bloody Pit due to the number of lives that it claimed during its construction, which was roughly 196 lives.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah.
You always think about that with, the construction of railroads, because it's incredibly dangerous, especially in, places you always hear about it here in BC.
The Rocky.
It's a part of, the social studies BC curriculum to talk about the...
I mean, it's very important to talk about it because... if you guys don't know... The Trans-Canada Railway, what they did is they brought in a bunch of Chinese workers. They were very underpaid, really bad conditions, and we talk about that a lot because, of course it's important to talk about that. Plus, there was, a head tax as they went in. A lot of fucking bullshit because they were oh, we want more workers on here, but we don't want this country to, I don't know. There was, this, one quote where it's oh, yeah, we need to keep, Canada, a white country.
That sounds like Canada. Canada, like, prides itself as being like, we're not racist. It's insanely racist. We just, like, sweep it under the rug. And that's almost, it almost feels worse sometimes in the States. At the amount of, like, how we just are so ambivalent to it.
Yeah, they're like, oh, Canada, like, okay, the United States is like a melting pot of races, whereas Canada's a mosaic. Like, shut the f*** up.
No.
Shut the f*** up.
Canadians try real hard to assimilate people, and it's
it's
gross.
really gross.
Oh yeah, stay tuned for next episode, folks. Canada's f***ed.
Canada is really f***ed. Yeah, that's a little preview. Yeah, I feel like that's really important to talk about when we're talking about railways, because I don't think a lot of people outside of Canada know about that. Like, it's very important that we talk about this within our school system, but...
Yeah, it's always just kind of, like, weird how it's...
It's also, like, a very short unit, usually, like, couple days. It's kind of similar to how they talk about residential schools.
Yeah. I think that's getting better. Like, at least I see in post-secondary, for me, like, whenever I take a Canadian history course, there is always, throughout the whole semester, discussion about reconciliation. You know, how we can move forward in a better way, and that includes knowing our past, knowing our history, knowing where us white people were disgusting, knowing how we're still being disgusting, and how we can stop being disgusting.
Yeah, and stop just sweeping everything under the rug and just calling us just multicultural when really we're, like...
So really gross?
Yeah. Really gross, yeah. But yeah, anyway. Canadian history. So, like, this case, a lot of its encounters kind of happened while it was being built. So I'm gonna split this up into two parts, the encounters and the history. And history is gonna have all the stuff that happens, like, when it's still being constructed, and the encounters is gonna have like all the stuff that happened post its like opening.
That kind of where like them experiencing stuff while it's like being built makes me think of when I did the World War I episode,
right? And
how people experienced a lot of stuff while it was happening, but then when it stopped, it kind of quieted down.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting.
So like in general, the surrounding forests in Berkshire Hills. It's, like, reported to be, like, haunted by those who, like, live in the area. They say, like, you know, people come into the forest, they never return, and some report, like, hearing voices with no apparent source. You know, that, like, typical, like, oh, stay away from the forest. That typical, like, North American colonialist gothic shit.
Is it bad that I really like that trope, though?
It's a fun trope. I like it, but...
The witch did it the best. Where, like, they never said it, but you knew, as, like, 5 minutes into that movie, you don't go into the woods.
You don't.
Right?
You don't venture off in the group.
Yeah, and the witch did that movie so, like, that, like, trope of don't go into the woods so well. The witch role does it, too, where it's, like, don't go into the woods. Or, like, stay on the path. Yeah. And then what happens if you don't stay on the path? Yeah,
exactly. Inside the tunnel, it's common to hear, like, eerie screams, phantom footsteps, and falling rubble, but that's just kind of, like, tunnel stuff.
I mean, you can kind of write off the footsteps sounds and the pebble sounds, but the screams is a little bit harder to write off.
Yeah, and, like, we have a lot of screaming in this tunnel.
Me too!
Same.
Hey, babe, you want to come take a ride in my screaming tunnel?
Oh, no, I was going to make a period joke. Shut the f*** up.
That laugh, what the f*** is that laugh? It sounded like a gremlin.
You have a lot of really fun laughs throughout this. I should make a compilation of Ashley's weird laughs. It's great. I hear some really good stuff in post.
I have like 4 different laughs. I have the wheeze, and I have my like weird thing, which is like but higher pitched. Yeah. And then whatever the fuck my gremlin sound was.
And then also just like loud laughs where it just like goes off the like.
There it goes.
There it goes. We're looking at the sound waves right now, and they go like all the way up. Like, just, like, a big blue spot. It's great.
See, this is why, like, you know, me and my boyfriend work so well together, because I laugh enough for 3 people.
Yeah, it's great.
And I laugh with my whole body.
Oh, yeah. Our D&D sessions are great.
Just flailing everywhere, just cackling, screaming.
Hot chocolatey milk.
Hello, would you like some hot chocolatey milk?
In our last D&D session, me, Ashley, and Ian, we were all, like, we were in this, like, tunnel thing, and there were all these mechanical spiders, and we discovered that we all have, like, disguising spells, which we didn't end up using, but we were like, that brought up the idea of, can we disguise ourselves? And so what we ended up doing is we all disguised ourselves as a massive spider.
And it worked.
And it worked. It worked. We went in there, corralled all the spiders together and went, would you like some hot chocolatey milk? It was great. Yeah. That was a really great campaign.
We did talk about possibly recording our sessions. So.
Yeah. Let us know. Yeah.
Do you guys want to hear us be f***ing idiots?
Yeah.
More than we are here? Because
we're really bad at D&D.
We're a little bit scripted here. It's not like a Fitz video.
Yeah. The tunnels were investigated by several paranormal groups throughout the 70s and 80s. In 1976, an investigator from Massachusetts spotted an apparition in old-fashioned working clothes. In 1984, an investigator named Allie Allmaker reported that, quote, I have been in the tunnel only once, accompanied by a railroad official, and can attest to the claim that it is an eerie place. I had the uncomfortable feeling that someone was walking closely behind me in the darkness. Let's turn him on page here. And would tap me on my shoulder, or worse, pull me into some unknown and unspeakable horror at any moment.
The way that she worded that just grinds my gears. And this is like,
we were like literally just discussing this like 2 seconds ago.
Stay tuned for my episode because I am going to have a really long discussion about how the paranormal community needs to be super fucking responsible with the way that it talks about these things. Mm-hmm. But the way it's like, oh, it's going to grab me and drag me into some unspeakable horror. It's like, can you just describe that as a normal human being, please?
It's also an 84, so that's like kind of like the height of like the whole like Satan crisis.
I really think that the paranormal community has a huge problem with dramatizing things, and that's why people don't take it seriously. Because have you guys listened to us talk? Have you heard how we talk?
Yeah.
If I wasn't inclined to believe in it, I would not believe it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, bitch, the f*** are you saying?
Yeah.
Can you describe that, like, in normal
Ghost Adventures
terms?
is, like, kind of guilty of that, and that's what I hear, like, a lot in critiques.
Yeah, it's, like, not just Ghost Adventures. It's literally everyone.
Yeah.
Whether it be a podcast, or a book, or a TV show.
Or BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Shut the f*** up!
People have the urge to, like,
dramatize
go dramatic.
It.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no wonder people don't believe us.
Yeah.
When you talk like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally.
All right, I need to say
But then on the other hand, I really like it because, like, saying, like, oh, the locals whispered, going back to our... It's fun. It's, like, very much like campfire ghost stories.
Yeah, but
on the one hand...
when you're trying to, like, actually talk about phenomena,
if you
want scientists to believe you, you need to talk like a scientist.
Yeah. I don't know. She also reported that once some college students recorded EVPs from inside the tunnel's depths, whispered voices, stuff like that. They're like,
that just makes it sound like you have a whole bunch of college students like 20 weed.
Are you kidding? That's really what college students are like.
Or like, it was the Satan panic, so they're just like, it's me, Satan.
Let's go into the bloody pit.
Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?
I know, I want to live deliciously.
Mom said it's my turn to live deliciously. That's my favorite meme.
It's so great.
Like, I'm not one to talk about when it comes to, like, being over the top. Because I love horror, and I love horror writing, and horror writing is so f***ing over the top.
Yeah, and I'm a witch. We're over the top.
Yeah, it's just sometimes when I'm, like, trying to research these stories, and it's like, I blame this podcast. I never used to be like this, and now I'm like, can y'all just talk normal, please?
Yeah, totally.
Like, just tell me how it is. Don't tell me what you think it is.
Oh, yeah. 100%. And people just, like, adding on, like, I have this issue with, like, I think it's called, like, affective history.
Oh.
Where it's, like, where people, like, put their own emotions into history, which can be really great because then it, like, exposes your own biases. I think I talked about this once or twice.
Yeah.
But then the thing about affective history is that you need to clarify when you are speculating. Mm-hmm. And people do that a lot where they're like, oh, this must have been like this. This must have been this person's ghost. And not being like,
yeah,
no.
Ghost Adventures does that.
Oh, yeah, totally.
All the time. And it's like, was it really?
Was it really? We had that issue with the Bodie Ghost Town? Cowboy Slut?
Can we do it?
Big old butt, cowboy slut. Looking at spurs makes me nut. Leather boots, assless chaps, give my big butt a slap.
And now you know.
The cowboy rap.
I've also gotten really into saying yee recently. I blame Curtis Connor for that. Me and my friend just text each other yee every once in a while, and it's great.
I love yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
I saw this Vine or video on TikTok last night. It's incredibly cursed. Where it's like this guy had a cup and he had stuck a sticky note to it that said yeehaw juice, and he takes a sip of it and then the sticky note comes off and it just says meth. And then it cuts to him in a corner freaking out. That's a bad video. It's so bad, but it's so funny.
Anyway, so like on like a slightly brighter note, one former employee at the Boston and Maine company, Joseph Impoco, reported that while he believes that the tunnel is haunted, he is not afraid of it. He was clearing ice off of the tracks one night and was told by an unseen voice I think it said like, "Run, Joe, run." And then he narrowly missed being run over by the number 60 train.
Oh.
There's like enough room on either side from the videos from what I can see to like move to the side, so that's good. The second occasion occurred while he was trying to free freight cars from frozen tracks, when the same voice told him to drop his crowbar, and he narrowly missed being electrocuted by an overheated overhead power line.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting though, and that keeps coming up a lot, like going back to the World War I episode, is that a lot of people are saved by spectral entities, right? So it's like, and that happens a lot too in a lot of cases where it'll be like family members, like not just in World War I, but like all the time, like there'll be ghosts of family members or friends, or even just someone not related to you, but someone reaching out from beyond to like save your life.
Yeah, I actually had this one encounter when I was in my old house where I was having a breakdown on the floor. I was crying and I felt like a ghostly hand like touch my leg and like kind of pat it, which is equally as terrifying as it was kind of sweet, but yeah, that was weird. I don't know, could have just been me feeling things, but that's what I feel. I think the house was haunted. Yeah, anyway, every year after this, he paid homage to the spirits of the Hoosac Tunnel by like giving up offerings, I believe, or just like visiting the tunnel. I'm not really sure. They didn't really talk about it.
Yeah.
But that being said, the one year he didn't, his wife fell ill and consequently died that October. And he claimed that he thinks that it was due to his failure to journey to the tunnel. Yeah. He also like, sorry.
I can make a joke, but I don't know if I should make a joke.
Yeah. If it's about, that was in 1977, I believe. He also reported a slightly more sinister incident when he was removing trees from the tunnel's east portal and was nearly crushed by a falling oak tree. And while running away, he heard, quote, unearthly laughter.
Ew.
Yeah, really, really ew.
Y'all got demons in those woods.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going into history now. Demon! So a good majority of the deaths that occurred during the construction of the tunnel, we're going into the construction now, was due to things like explosions from black powder and nitroglycerin, which was newly introduced.
Ew.
And the operators had the honor of trying it out.
The honor.
The honor.
The honor.
Yeah. One such incident occurred on the afternoon of March 20th in 1865, when 3 explosive experts, Ned Brickman, Billy Nash, and Ringo Kelly, set off a wired explosion and rushed over to the,
Can I just say that Ringo Kelly is the best name for an explosive expert? Can I
explain why? Why do you think it's a good name?
Just, like, Ringo has such, like a
superstar quality to it. Yeah.
Energy about it. But, no, just the name Ringo has, like, just a wild energy about it. And then Kelly just sounds so, like a gunslinger last name, if that makes sense. And it's just so, like, Wild West, fuck you.
It
kind
is.
of thing. Like, honey.
Honey,
Serving me explosive expert, honey. Feeling like feeling like feeling like feeling like feeling like feeling like
Shut the fuck up, you RuPaul's Drag Race trash bag. Also, can we talk about Brooklyn Heights?
Eat me alive.
That like flower child look and the orange look. Ugh.
I want her to step on me.
On point.
Yeah, I want her to just spit on me.
I'm totally rooting for her, and it's not just because she's Canadian.
I want her to like slap me, spit on me, tell me I'm shit, and like just leave me, and I'll be like, ugh.
Jesus Christ. You are a bisexual disaster.
Bisexual disaster.
You have BDE. Yeah. Bisexual disaster energy.
It's true.
It's true. Yeah. So anyway, Ringo Kelly. These three experts, Ned Brickman, Billy Nash, and Ringo Kelly, set off a wired explosion and rushed to the safety bunker to shield themselves from the explosion. Kelly was the first to arrive and set off the explosion too early.
Oh.
Thus killing Kelly. Yeah.
Ringo. This is why you're shit in the Beatles.
Thus killing Brickman and Nash, who were buried alive under the falling rocks.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That's legit, like...
Really bad.
Of all the ways to
die,
go, that's like bottom of my list.
You're gonna get terrified by this other accident.
Dude, a lot of people get buried alive.
A lot.
Because that doesn't inherently mean that you die instantly. That's a long, slow, painful death.
Mm-hmm.
That, like...
And there's also, like, theories that maybe he killed them on purpose.
Ew.
Because, like, why set off it early?
Yeah.
And why was he the first one to arrive? It's kind of, like, a weird situation, but...
Was he ever, like, charged for this?
Soon after the explosion, Kelly disappeared.
Oh.
Only to be found on March 30th, 10 days after the explosion, 2 miles inside the tunnel, extremely close to where Brickman and Nash were buried. The authorities estimated that he had died sometime between midnight and 3:30 a.m. and had been strangled to death. While it was investigated, the case was never solved, though a lot of the workers strongly believed that Kelly was killed by the vengeful spirits of Brickman and Nash.
That sounds a lot like going back to Cowboy Slut episode, where there was that ghost town and they murdered
the dude.
And then all three of those people ended up dying in very bizarre ways not long afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 2 years later, after the explosion happened, the construction company wrote to a Mr. Paul Travers that the workers, quote, complained constantly of hearing a man's voice cry out in agony.
Ew.
While the construction company representative, Mr. Dunn, had assured the workers that it was just the wind in the tunnels, the workers still refused to be in the tunnels after sundown. And because the work had slowed down so much, they asked Travers to tour the tunnels and to prove this theory that it was, just the wind. So Travers and Dunn toured the tunnel on September 8th, and Travers later wrote to his sister that, quote, Dunn and I entered the tunnels at exactly 9 p.m. We traveled about 2 miles into the shaft, and then we stopped to listen. The shaft. As we stood there in the cold silence, we both heard what truly sounded like a man groaning out in pain. As you know, I've heard this same sound many times during the war. This was after the Civil War. He was previously in the Civil War. Yeah. We turned up our wicks on our lamps. There were no other human beings in the shaft except for Mr. Dunn and myself. Mr. Dunn agreed that it wasn't the wind we'd heard. Perhaps Nash and Brickman. I wonder.
This is why people don't take us seriously.
Well, that's Travers, like, writing.
I know.
That's him reporting to his sister the, like, spooky stuff.
That's my favorite thing about, like, and this is why I'm so disappointed in a lot of historians, is that, like, there are so many documents that, like, these, and yet they're still just, like, they don't...
take them seriously,
Yeah. Have I talked about... Okay, for my history class this semester, I wanted to write a paper, and this history class is about the period from 1789 to 1913, so it's the Victorian era pretty much. And I wanted to write about Victorian era superstitions and...
Victorian era hentai?
No.
Oh.
But, like, Victorian era superstitions, culture, and the spiritualism movement. My professor, he gives us the list of topics we're allowed to pick. There wasn't even a topic about Victorian era culture in general. It was all just big history, Napoleon, Metternich, all that shit. And I'm like, how many people have already written about this? How many essays are you going to read about the same fucking shit? And you said no to me writing about something that no one else has ever done before? Most likely?
Or very few.
Fuck off. It literally pissed me off. I'm still furious about it.
Anytime someone talks about Napoleon, it just brings me back to, like, the fucking, like, high school.
I'm sick of it. I'm literally fucking sick of it. And I'm, like, sick of all these people who are like, big history is the only thing that matters. No! I'm done with it. Because, like, big history, that's only the 1% of the population. You have 99% the rest of the world out there, and you're deciding to not talk about the things that people believed in, the things that people, like, thought were under their beds, the things that people were haunted by. You just want to talk about the legacy of Napoleon for the 500,000th time.
I love the spooky shit. I don't give a shit about Napoleon. Napoleon can go suck my dick.
Legit, there were over 500,000 books and papers about Napoleon. I'm done. I'm done.
Jesus
I don't want to hear
Christ.
about Napoleon ever again.
No.
So I'm really hoping that when I get to I'm actually able to write what I want to write about.
We'll you out.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm like serious though. I'm like sorry. I just got I'm so
Heated?
mad.
Yeah, no.
I'm
Very
so
valid.
mad.
Very
mad.
valid.
Because now I have to write about like the Crimean War. That's the only interesting topic there was about like the Crimean War and propaganda.
Mm.
And I'm like pissed.
War propaganda is really cool though.
Like, literally, all I want to do is like print off that meme
That
of
meme.
Garfield,
You're
and
not immune to
and it
propaganda.
says you are not immune to propaganda.
That's the truth of it.
That's
We are not immune to propaganda.
That's literally my,
Everything is propaganda.
That's legitimately like basically my argument for this paper.
I love it. So yeah, okay, we're gonna get into the incident that personally frightened me the most. This occurred at the Central Shaft.
Wait, Central Shaft.
The Central Shaft.
Sorry.
So on October 17th of 1867, the workers were digging a 1,028 foot, that being 313 meters, vertical exhaust shaft, like a chimney to let out the fumes, when a candle in the hoist building
No.
ignited naphtha flames.
Oh.
Fumes? Sorry, I don't know if that's pronounced naphtha, but naphtha fumes that had been leaked from a lamp,
Oh my
causing an
God.
explosion, which incidentally caused the hoist building, which is like to like lower workers and equipment in, to collapse and fall into the shaft.
No.
Luckily, 4 workers were able to escape, but 13 workers were subsequently trapped by the falling pieces of iron. In the fall, the pumps were also destroyed, causing the shaft to flood.
Oh no.
Yeah. The next day, a miner named Mallory was lowered into the shaft, who reported there was no survivors, quote, that there was no hope.
Oh my
However,
God.
several months later, when the shaft was actually fully excavated, they discovered a crudely constructed raft, meaning that there were in fact survivors who built the raft, like, to survive the flooding, but subsequently died of suffocation when the fires consumed the limited supply of oxygen. Isn't that
off.
horrible? That's the worst way to die. When you said falling rocks, that means that they were injured by, like, of course they were injured by the fall,
Yeah.
but they stayed alive after.
Oh, could you imagine that? Like, what grossed me out is like the falling iron, and like that would hurt. No matter where it hit you, you're getting fucked.
Yeah,
And
and
then, like-
especially since this was an explosion, it would be hot iron.
Yeah, and then like you have the flooding, and then to have the willpower to like fight through the pain to build a raft, only to die. Like, who knows how long afterwards?
It was probably because of suffocation as well, which is another one of the worst ways to die.
Ugh.
Because they literally ran out of oxygen. People thought that it was fumes, but no, the fires consumed the oxygen.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Mm-hmm. That's the incident that really fucking creased me out.
You know, I was hoping you would have a slightly lighter, more fun Victorian era hentai kind of topic,
Yeah.
because mine's really upsetting too.
Yeah, she
But
like
no.
messaged me like, maybe we can do fairies, and I was like, I kind of already have a topic figured out.
Fairies would have been so much.
They would have been a
nicer.
lot of
It would have
fun.
been a lot more fun and gay.
So while the miners were still buried, like this was like before it was excavated, a reporter called Glenn Doran wrote in a newspaper called The Transcript that, quote, during the time the miners were missing, the villagers told strange tales of vague shapes and muffled wails near the water-filled pit.
Ew.
Workmen claimed to see the lost miners carrying picks and shovels through a shroud of mist and snow on the mountaintop. The ghostly apparitions would appear briefly, then vanish, leaving no footprints in the snow, giving no answer to the miners' calls. So while the apparitions stopped once the workers were given a proper burial,
Yeah.
it was reported that you can still hear the moans inside the tunnel.
That sounds residual.
Yeah.
That's gross.
Yeah. When I heard that story on Lore, I was literally like, creep the
I
out.
think I remember hearing that story now.
Yeah.
It made me, uncomfortable.
Yeah, very uncomfortable. Because just, out of all the ways to die, I think that and, like, being trapped in an underwater cavern, like deep diving. Another encounter occurred on June 25th of 1872 when a Dr. Clifford J. Owen and James R. McKinstry were roughly 2 miles deep in the tunnel. Besides their lamps, there was no light in the tunnel. And Owen, who wrote the account, reported that the tunnel was, quote, as cold and dark as a tomb. Owen then reports that, another quote, James and I stood there talking for a minute or two, and were just about to turn back when suddenly I heard a strange, mournful sound. It was just as if someone or something was suffering in great pain. The next thing I saw was a dim light coming along the tunnel from a western direction. At first, I believed it was probably another workman with a lantern. Yet, as the light grew closer, it took on a strange blue color and appeared to change shape almost into the form of a human being without a head.
Ew.
The light seemed to be floating along about a foot or two above the tunnel floor. The next instant, it felt as if the temperature had suddenly dropped to an icy, cold chill, ran up my spine.
Like, already colder than it was before?
Mhm.
Ugh.
The headless form came so close that I could have reached out and touched it, but I was too terrified to move. For what seemed like an eternity, McKinstry and I just stood there gaping at the headless thing like two wooden, Indians. You know I hate that word, but I'm quoting.
Can I just point out, that's the most stupid simile I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Like, that...
That's a f***ed up simile.
That's not even... It doesn't even, like...
You could just say statues.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense in this situation. It's just like, I need to make sure that I'm blatantly racist.
Good old 1800s. The blue light remained motionless for a few seconds, as it were actually looking us over, then floated off towards the east end of the shaft and vanished into thin air. I'm above all a realist, he continued, nor am I prone to repeating gossip and wild tales that defy a reasonable explanation. However, in all truth, I cannot deny what James McKinstry and I witnessed with our own eyes. A lot of people actually theorize that this is also the same spirit that the paranormal investigator in 1976 saw.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
The next encounter that we have occurs in 1874, which is 1 year before it opened, when a hunter named Frank Webster went missing near the tunnel. 3 days later, he was found in a state of shock, and evidence of being beaten was discovered on his body, like around his head. He reported that ghostly voices had lured him inside the train tunnel, and upon entering it, he saw ghostly figures walking around. The apparitions then took his hunting rifle and began to beat him with it, causing him to pass out. Interestingly enough, he claimed that he did not remember leaving the tunnel, nor was his rifle ever found.
I'm sorry.
Why are you gonna laugh at? Are you gonna laugh at Frank?
I'm sorry.
What's up?
You came to the wrong neighborhood, mother. Talk shit, get beat, bitch.
He didn't talk shit.
You don't know that. He might have
Yeah, that's
talked
true.
shit.
He could have talked shit. That's why he was lured into the tunnel.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's just something a little bit comical about getting your shit beaten out by ghosts. It's not funny. It's not funny.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Last encounter. Shortly before the tunnel was opened, a team led by Harlan Mulvaney took a wagon load of wood into the tunnel. Wagon load of wood!
Taking that wood down.
Taking that wood.
Shaft. Ugh.
After a short distance, Mulvaney suddenly turned the team around and urged them out of the abyss.
Is that your wording?
That was my wording.
Molly, this is why no one takes this fucking seriously. For Christ's sake.
When they found the wagons and the horses a few days later, miles from the tunnel, it was like 3 miles away from the tunnel.
So wait. Sorry, I'm missing something here.
Okay.
They go into the tunnel, he says turn around, and then they go missing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He, like, led the team out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was, like, people with the team. It was unclear. They didn't really talk about the other people who were in the team.
Okay.
Or if there was any. But he basically led them out of the tunnel, like, wildly.
Okay.
Went down the train tracks. And then
they
they found them
disappeared.
a few days later, 3 miles. Mulvaney was never seen again, though. He was not with the team.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the Hoosac Tunnel. You can still visit it if you're, like, on a passenger train, I guess. I think it's roughly like 12 to 30 trains. I saw mostly like 12, but then there was also the number 30 that was mentioned. Unscheduled trains that kind of go through that tunnel. So just, like, be careful if you're in the area and you want to investigate it. Don't
get hit by a train.
Yeah. That's also the issue with, like, there's this cryptid, I think, called the Poplick Monster.
Oh.
Which is about, that's the only humorous thing about it, because what it does is it, like, lures people onto the train tracks to get hit by trains.
Ew.
It's like a goat man type thing.
Oh.
But a lot of people have actually died trying to investigate it because they go onto the train trestle, which is like a big bridge.
Oh, and then they can't get off it in time.
Yeah.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
I think,
stay away from trains.
Yeah, I feel like it'd honestly be such a hard job to be a train conductor.
I used to babysit for train conductors.
Yeah, like seeing, like, people dying.
Yeah, they also have really bad schedules. Like, it was, like, a lot of, like, on-call stuff. That's why I was babysitting for them. And they would, like, let me know on the day if I was coming or not. But yeah, they also, like, kind of mentioned that it was a hard job.
It seems to be, like, something that a lot of people don't really think about when it comes to, like, being a train conductor.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, like, because, like, you do, like, commonly hear about people throwing themselves onto train tracks and stuff like that. Sorry, this just took a heavy turn.
Yeah. On another side, my dad told me, because he is from like the northern area of BC. He talks about a lot like people like jumping onto trains and then jumping off.
Oh, people being idiots?
People being idiots with trains.
Yeah, I saw that happen in Vancouver, where a couple of like teenagers were like, there's a train going across the road, like at a crossing, and a whole bunch of like kids just started jumping on it as like, you know, they thought it'd be funny, but that there were sensors on the train that forced it to stop when that happened. So it kept stopping and then starting again, and people were getting, this one woman actually started yelling at these kids. She was like, "You fucking idiots!"
I mean,
You're
they
holding
are being
everybody
idiots.
up. It was so funny.
Yeah, I mean, of course they're holding people up, but also like you're putting your own life at risk.
Yeah, you're being, it takes one fall to fall under those wheels and you're losing your spine.
Yeah. And also, like, when you're going through the tunnel, apparently, it's very hard to hear because there are so many, like, turns and, like, it kind of gets muffled. So, like, if you're in the train, like, specifically the Hoosac Tunnel, it's very hard for train conductors to hear you.
That's scary.
Which is why several people have died trying to investigate the tunnels. So, the website that I actually looked at was like, don't go in there lest you become one of the Hoosac ghosts. Again, they're being dramatic, but...
Just tell people not go in the tunnel.
Don't f***ing go in there.
idiots.
Plus, you're trespassing.
Yeah.
Like, f*** the police, but also, like, follow the law.
For your own safety.
For your own
like,
safety.
F*** the police in your own safe way.
Yeah. Anyway, would you have...
This is Demons of Bellinis. All hail anarchy.
Would you have a Bellini with any of the people through this story? Let's rate them. Would you have a Bellini with the guy who, was like his wife died when he was like he was also saved by the ghosts? I
think he just needs some whiskey.
Fair.
He sounds like a whiskey man.
He does. Would you have a Bellini with the various like okay, would you have a Bellini with the explosion experts that we talked about? With Ringo. The guy who may or may not have killed his friends.
He sounds like he'd romp you in the sack.
Jesus Christ.
Bisexual disaster. With a name like that, you have to be packing.
Would you have a Bellini with that investigator, Allie Allmaker? The one who was really dramatic.
No, she can heck off.
Okay.
Molly, I don't want to have a drink with any of these people. I'm sorry.
You don't? What about the like people who died in the bad?
I hope they have some water and a nice meal.
Not water because it flooded. I hope they get some sweet, sweet oxygen.
Yeah. Okay, alright.
Yeah, anyone in the story?
No.
Fair. I feel like, I don't know, I'd have a drink with the workers because they seem like the conditions are really bad. They need a drink. I would drink with them. Plus,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's our episode. Support us on Coffee.
So
I don't know. We really need to work on that. Stay off train tracks. Don't be a fucking idiot.
Don't
pay your workers well.
Yeah, don't trespass.
Don't trespass.
Don't trespass on my rights, motherfucker.
Yeah. Do you think this location is haunted? Or do you think it was just like people being freaked out by the construction?
I think it does have the potential to be haunted, and it does have some strange stories about it.
Especially like the ones with the apparitions, but that was all during the construction, like the 1800s.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot. I mean, besides the one in when was that? The 1976 where the guy saw the person in old-fashioned clothing, but that's just one incident that I can find.
Yeah, I mean...
And, like, trains go through there all the time.
Yeah, and, like, a lot of it does sound like it could be residual, too. So it's kind of hard to say if it's, like, intelligently haunted.
I don't think it's intelligently haunted. I certainly think that it's, like, a case of these workers who died in really tragic ways.
Yeah.
Who just can't find peace. Yeah. Which is really sad.
And to this day, the case remains
unsolved. That's trademarked, I feel. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I am getting slooshed.
Finish off your drink. We have another drink to finish. Stay tuned for 2 weeks from now when we talk about a local case, actually.
It is very local.
It's very local to us.
About 5 minutes away local.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get heated.
Okay. Before we ruin Ashley's episode, let's say goodbye, okay?
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in this week, and we hope that you enjoyed the episode. This episode features the voices of Molly Lorette and Ashley Smith. Our theme music was composed and produced by Larry Lorette. Our cover image was designed by Ashley Smith, and sound editing was done by Molly Lorette. Have any comments, concerns, or cases you want us to cover? Email us at demonsandbellinis@gmail.com. You can also find us at Demons and Bellinis on Tumblr, Demons and Bellinis on Instagram, and at DBellinis on Twitter. That's capital D and capital B. You'll also be able to find case pictures tweeted out there and posted to our Instagram. Also, make sure that if you like what we do here, drop us a donation at Ko-fi, which you can find through our Twitter. Thanks again, and we hope that you keep your ears open.